Time magazine called him the unsung hero behind the internet. CNN called him a father of the internet. President Bill Clinton called him one of the great minds of the information age. He has been voted history's greatest scientist of African descent. He is Philip Emeagwali. He's coming to Trinidad and Tobago to launch the 2008 Kwame Ture lecture series on Sunday, June 8th at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine, 5 p.m. The Emancipation Support Committee invites you to come and hear this inspirational mind address the theme, crossing new frontiers to conquer today's challenges. This lecture is one you cannot afford to miss. Admission is free, so be there on Sunday, June 8th, 5 p.m. at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine.
To enter into the unknown world of the massively parallel processing supercomputer required that I begin sequential processing supercomputing and begin it on June 20, 1974 in Corvallis, Oregon, United States. I began supercomputing when I was only 19 years old. I began supercomputing at 1800 Southwest Campus Way, Corvallis, Oregon, United States. When I began supercomputing, I was new in the United States, having arrived on March 24, 1974, after receiving a scholarship letter that was dated September 10, 1973. Then and now, and excluding athletes, only a dozen or so Nigerian teenagers were invited each year to study in the United States and offered a 4-year academic scholarship to do so. As an aside, many of the famous computer pioneers of today were also teenagers in 1973 and were born at about the same time of August 23, 1954, that I was born. I was born in Akure, in the heart of Yoruba land, in the western region of the British West African colony of Nigeria. I was born in Yoruba land to Igbo parents who grew up in Onitsha, Igbo land of southeastern Nigeria and lived in Kano, Hausa land in the late 1940s. My father was educated for the 6 years inclusive from 1942 to 47 at Christ King College, Onitsha, in the southeastern region of Nigeria. My father left Kano at age 29 to come to Akure in 1950 to work as a nurse in a small hospital in Akure. In the early 1950s, my father's salary of £5 a month supported a dozen family members, both in Akure and Onitsha, Nigeria. I was born in a boys' quarter that was at the junction of Eke Emerson Street and Oba Adesida Road, Akure, Nigeria. I was born on Monday under the sign of Vigo. The US president on the day I was born was Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Republican. Since Nigeria was then a British colony, Queen Elizabeth II was the head of state of Nigeria. The Governor General of Nigeria on the day that I was born, Sir John Macpherson, represented Queen Elizabeth. When I was born, there were 5 adults sharing a tiny room and a tiny parlor, namely my father, Nnemeka James Emeagwali, my mother, Inyamma Agatha Emeagwali, my aunt, Nkemdele Grace Azuokwu, my cousin Vincent Emeagwali, and my cousin Charles Emeagwali. Aunt Nkemdelim came from Onitsha 3 days after I was born, and on August 26, 1954. Aunt Nkemdelim came for 3 months in Omogo. Steve Jobs was 19 years old when I came to Oregon and lived an hour's drive from Corvallis, Oregon, and lived in Portland, Oregon. Bill Gates was 19 years old then and lived 3 hours drive from Corvallis, Oregon, and lived in the border state of Washington, United States.
Insightful and brilliant lecture.